She was told to move to economy, but her dad owned the airline. Naomi was a quiet girl with big brown eyes that always seemed to notice more than she said. She loved books, puzzles, and drawing small pictures in the corners of her notebooks. At 12 years old, she carried herself with a gentle grace, though sometimes it made her seem shy. Her life, however, was far from ordinary. Naomi's father, John, was a man the world often overlooked. To strangers, he looked like any other tall black man who liked simple clothes and calm walks. But behind that quiet life, John owned one of the biggest airlines in the country. Naomi never told anyone. Not her classmates, not her teachers, not even most of the people who worked for her father. She didn't want anyone to treat her differently. She wanted to be seen for herself, just Naomi, not Naomi, the daughter of an airline owner. That morning, John had promised her something special, her first trip in first class on one of his very own airplanes. Naomi was thrilled but nervous too. She clutched her ticket tightly, not because she thought it might get lost, but because it felt like a golden key to another world. When she stepped onto the luxury plane, her heart was racing. First class looked magical. The seats were like little beds, soft and wide, with pillows waiting neatly on top. She whispered under her breath, "Wow." But then she noticed the eyes that stared too long. A man in a gray suit raised his eyebrows. A woman in a silk scarf leaned closer to her husband and giggled. Naomi's cheeks burned. She walked slowly to her seat, ticket in hand, ready to show it if anyone asked. "Excuse me," a sharp voice cut through the air. Naomi turned. A flight attendant with a tight bun and painted lips frowned at her. "Are you sure you're in the right place, dear?" Naomi blinked at the flight attendant's question. She looked down at the ticket in her hand, then back up at the woman's tight frown. Her heart thumped in her chest. "Yes, this is my seat." "Tua," she said softly, her voice shaking just a little. The attendant crossed her arms. Her lips curled like she was forcing back a laugh. "First class is for premium guests, sweetheart." "Are you sure you didn't mean economy?" Naomi's stomach sank. She could hear the whispers behind her. "She doesn't belong here. Maybe she's lost. Poor thing, she's embarrassed herself." The words cut deeper than sharp knives. She wanted to shrink, to vanish, to turn into air so she wouldn't have to face those eyes. But she forced her small fingers to hold the ticket higher. "It says 2A," she repeated. The attendant snatched it, glanced quickly, and gave a long sigh. "Why don't you head back to economy, dear? This section isn't for everyone." The way she said everyone made Naomi's face burn. She could feel tears building behind her eyes, but she bit her lip hard to stop them from falling. Slowly, she nodded. Her shoes tapped softly on the aisle floor as she walked back. Every step felt heavier than the last. The man in the gray suit smirked. The woman in the silk scarf tilted her head and whispered something else that made her husband chuckle. Naomi hugged her little bag tighter against her chest. When she reached the narrow economy row, she slid into a seat by the window. The fabric was rough, the space cramped, but she didn't complain. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass and whispered to herself, "Don't cry. Not here. Don't let them see." The plane still hadn't taken off. People were still boarding, filling the seats with chatter and the rustle of luggage. But Naomi sat frozen, staring out at the runway lights, wishing the flight would start so she could close her eyes and disappear into the sky. The captain's voice suddenly broke through the speakers. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board. Today, we are honored to have a very special guest with us. Please give a warm welcome to the owner of this airline." The air shifted instantly. The whispers changed tone. "The owner. He's here. It must be someone powerful." Naomi's chest tightened. She sat up straight, her eyes wide. All heads turned to the front, waiting. Some imagined a tall older man in a black suit, carrying a briefcase, maybe surrounded by important people. Others pictured a businessman with shiny shoes and bodyguards behind him. The cabin door opened. But the man who stepped inside was not what anyone expected. He wore sneakers, jeans, a simple hoodie. No guards, no briefcase, no fancy watch. He walked slowly, calmly, his steps quiet but filled with something stronger than power. Presence. The kind of presence that made people sit straighter without knowing why. Naomi's heart jumped. She knew that walk. She knew that smile even before it appeared. The man's eyes scanned the cabin until they stopped on her. And then the smile grew. Warm, safe, home. He walked down the aisle, ignoring the stares, ignoring the whispers that had now turned into silence. When he reached her seat, he leaned slightly and touched her cheek. "Ready for our trip, princess?" His deep voice filled the quiet cabin. Naomi's lips trembled. "Daddy!" Gasps echoed across the plane. The woman in the silk scarf covered her mouth. The man in the gray suit turned red. The flight attendant froze, her painted lips parting, but no words coming out. The tall man, the owner, straightened his back and looked at the attendant. His eyes were sharp now, not soft like before. "Come here," he said firmly. The woman stepped forward, her face pale, her hands wringing nervously. "Why, yes, sir." He nodded once. "On my planes, everyone gets respect. Or they don't fly. Do you understand?" The flight attendant nodded quickly, her face pale. "Yes, sir." John leaned back slightly, but his eyes never left her. His tone grew colder. "I saw everything. Every single thing you said to her. Every look, every word, every laugh. It's all on the CCTV camera. You thought no one was watching, but I was." Gas spread through the cabin. Passengers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The woman in the silk scarf dropped her gaze, her hands twisting in her lap. The man in the gray suit coughed nervously, avoiding eye contact with anyone. The attendant's lips parted. "Yes, sir." Her voice cracked. She looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. John's stare was sharp. "You didn't just doubt her ticket. You doubted her worth. You made my daughter feel small when she should have been treated with dignity. Tell me, what gave you the right to do that?" The woman's hand shook. "I don't know, sir. I made a mistake." "No," John said firmly, his voice like steel. "It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. You chose to laugh. You chose to send her away. You chose to believe she didn't belong. And now everyone here knows it." The cabin was dead silent. Even the sound of the engine seemed distant compared to the weight of his words. Naomi sat still, her heart pounding. She looked up at her father, a mix of awe and relief filling her chest. John's voice softened only slightly as he leaned closer. "Listen carefully. On my planes, respect is not optional. It is the rule. If you cannot honor it, you cannot serve here. Do you understand that now?" The woman's eyes brimmed with tears. She whispered, "Yes, sir. I understand." John leaned back, still watching her. "Good. Then let this moment be a lesson for you, and for everyone else watching." Every passenger lowered their eyes, some nodding slowly. Shame hung in the air like a heavy blanket. The whispers were gone. No one dared to laugh again. Naomi felt her throat tighten, but this time it wasn't from sadness. It was from pride. For the first time, she realized how powerful truth could be when spoken out loud. She leaned against her father's arm, holding his hand tightly. And for the first time since boarding, she felt safe again. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to subscribe and share.